You won't believe what happened when I discovered my broke boyfriend had been hiding a $2 million trust fund while I worked 3 jobs to pay for our dates. By the time I finished exposing his lies at his family's charity gala, he had lost everything: his trust fund, his job, his family's respect, and his freedom. But let me tell you how I uncovered the most shocking financial deception you've ever heard. Because what I did to get my revenge was so perfect, he's still paying for it 3 years later. It all started 8 months ago when I was working at a small coffee shop downtown, barely making enough money to cover my rent and college tuition. I was 22, living paycheck to paycheck, and honestly feeling pretty hopeless about my financial situation. That's when Tyler walked into my life like some kind of Prince Charming, or so I thought. Tyler was absolutely gorgeous. Tall, athletic build, perfectly styled brown hair, and this incredible smile that made my heart skip a beat every time I saw it. He was wearing designer jeans and an expensive-looking sweater, but he carried himself with this humble, down-to-earth energy that made him seem approachable rather than intimidating. He ordered a simple black coffee and struck up a conversation while I prepared it. Tyler was charming, funny, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know me. He asked about my studies, my job, and my dreams for the future. When he found out I was working multiple jobs to put myself through school, he looked impressed rather than judgmental. "That's really admirable," he said, leaning against the counter. "Not many people have that kind of determination and work ethic. Your parents must be really proud of you." I explained that I was doing this on my own, without family support, and Tyler's expression became even more respectful. "Wow, that makes it even more impressive. I have so much respect for people who are willing to work hard for what they want." When Tyler asked for my number, I was thrilled but also nervous. He seemed like he was probably out of my league financially, and I didn't want to get involved with someone who would expect expensive dates that I couldn't afford. "I have to be honest," I told him as I wrote my number on his coffee cup. "I'm pretty broke right now. Between school and rent, I don't have much money for going out or doing expensive things." Tyler's face lit up with understanding. "Actually, that's perfect because I'm in the same boat. Work has been really slow lately, and I'm trying to be careful with money too. We can find fun, cheap things to do together." That response made me like him even more. Finally, a guy who understood financial struggle and wouldn't pressure me to spend money I didn't have. Our first few phone conversations were amazing. Tyler was easy to talk to, and we seemed to have so much in common. He told me he worked in consulting, but business was unpredictable, so some months were good and others were really tight. He completely understood when I talked about the stress of choosing between groceries and gas money, or having to pick up extra shifts when unexpected expenses came up. "It's tough out there for people our age," Tyler said during one of our late-night phone calls. "Everything is so expensive now, and wages haven't kept up. I really admire how you're handling it all." After talking for 2 weeks, Tyler finally asked me out on a real date. He suggested a casual Italian restaurant that wasn't too expensive, and I was excited that he had chosen something within both of our budgets. I spent my entire week's tip money on a cute new outfit and getting my hair done, because I really wanted to make a good impression. Tyler seemed like he could be something special, and I hadn't been excited about a guy like this in a long time. The date was wonderful. Tyler was even more charming in person, and we talked for hours about everything: our childhoods, our goals, our favorite movies and books. He was funny, thoughtful, and seemed to really listen when I spoke. I felt like I had finally met someone who understood me. But then came the moment that should have been my first red flag. When our check arrived, Tyler started patting his pockets with a confused expression. "Oh no," he said, looking genuinely embarrassed. "I think I grabbed the wrong jacket when I left my apartment. My wallet must be in my other coat." He looked so mortified that I felt terrible for him. "Don't worry about it," I said, reaching for my purse. "These things happen." "Are you sure?" Tyler asked, still looking embarrassed. "I feel awful about this. I promise I'll pay you back and make it up to you next time." The dinner cost $62, which was a lot of money for me, but Tyler seemed so sincere about paying me back that I didn't mind covering it. Besides, he had suggested we split the check anyway, so I figured he would have paid his half if he had remembered his wallet. "Thank you so much, Jessica," Tyler said as we left the restaurant. "You're incredible." I'll definitely make this up to you on our next date. 3 days later, Tyler called to ask me out again. He suggested we go to a movie and then grab dinner afterward, and he seemed excited about spending more time together. I was looking forward to it too, especially since he had promised to pay me back and cover our next date. But when we met at the movie theater, the exact same thing happened. Tyler patted his pockets, looked confused, and claimed he had forgotten his wallet again. "I can't believe I did this twice," he said, shaking his head. "I was rushing to meet you and I think I left it on my dresser. This is so embarrassing." This time I felt more annoyed than sympathetic, but I didn't want to make a scene or ruin our date. I paid for our movie tickets and snacks, which came to $38. At dinner afterward, Tyler ordered an expensive steak while I chose a salad to try to keep the cost down. I was starting to worry about how much I was spending, especially since Tyler still hadn't mentioned paying me back for our first date. When the check arrived, Tyler got that same embarrassed expression on his face. "Jessica, I feel terrible asking this again, but could you cover dinner? I promise I'll pay you back for everything this weekend when I get my paycheck." I wanted to say no, but we were sitting in a crowded restaurant and Tyler looked so genuinely apologetic. I paid the $84 check and told myself that Tyler would definitely pay me back like he promised. But the weekend came and went with no mention of the money Tyler owed me. When I finally brought it up, he looked confused for a moment before slapping his forehead. "Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. I'm so sorry, babe. Work has been really crazy this week, and it completely slipped my mind. Can I give it to you next week? Things should be less hectic then." I believed him because he seemed so genuine, and I knew how stressful work could be. Of course, I told him, "Don't worry about it." But next week never came. Tyler always had some excuse. Work was busy, he was waiting for a client to pay him, his hours had been cut, there was some family emergency that required him to help his parents financially. The excuses were always believable and delivered with such sincerity that I felt guilty for even asking about the money. Meanwhile, the pattern continued. Tyler would suggest expensive restaurants, fun activities, and weekend trips, always acting excited about our plans and talking about how much he wanted to treat me well. But somehow he never had his wallet, never had enough cash, or always had some financial emergency that prevented him from paying. After 2 months of this, I had spent over $800 on dates that Tyler had planned but I had paid for. That might not sound like a lot to some people, but for someone working 2 minimum wage jobs while trying to pay for college, it was devastating. I was working extra shifts every week just to cover the cost of dating Tyler. I started eating ramen noodles for every meal to save money. I asked my landlord for an extension on my rent. I borrowed money from friends and put expenses on credit cards that I couldn't afford to pay off. The worst part was that Tyler seemed oblivious to my financial stress, even though he was the one causing it. He would suggest expensive wine at dinner, order appetizers and desserts, and talk about how much he enjoyed being able to relax and splurge a little on our dates. "I work so hard all week," he would say while ordering the most expensive entree on the menu. "It feels good to treat ourselves once in a while, don't you think?" Meanwhile, I was choosing the cheapest items I could find and declining drinks to try to keep our costs down, all while knowing that I would be the one paying for Tyler's expensive tastes. I tried talking to Tyler about money several times, suggesting we do cheaper activities or stay in more often, but he always had a way of making me feel guilty about it. "Don't you think our relationship is worth investing in?" he would ask when I suggested cooking dinner at home instead of going to an expensive restaurant. "I just want to spend quality time with you and make you feel special." Or he would say, "Money isn't everything, Jess. What matters is that we're together and enjoying each other's company." It was hard to argue with sentiments like that without seeming selfish or materialistic. But Tyler's romantic words didn't pay my bills or put food in my refrigerator. Things got even worse when Tyler started suggesting weekend trips. He found a charming bed and breakfast in the mountains, and got excited about spending a romantic weekend there together. "It'll be perfect, Jess," he said, showing me pictures on his phone. "We can hike during the day, relax by the fireplace at night, and just focus on each other without any distractions." The bed and breakfast cost $400 for 2 nights, plus gas, meals, and activities. I tried to explain that I couldn't afford a weekend trip, but Tyler looked so disappointed. I understand money is tight, he said sadly. I wish I could pay for the whole thing, but my consulting work has been really slow this month. Maybe we could split it. I know it's expensive, but think about how romantic and memorable it would be. Against my better judgment, I agreed to the trip. I put the entire cost on my credit card, telling myself that Tyler would pay me back his half when his financial situation improved. The weekend was lovely, but it pushed me deeper into debt and further behind on my bills. During that trip, I started noticing things about Tyler that didn't quite match his claims of financial hardship. His luggage was expensive designer brands. His clothes were all high-end labels. His phone was the latest model, and he seemed to upgrade it frequently. When I mentioned these observations, Tyler always had explanations. The luggage was a graduation gift from his parents. His clothes came from outlet stores where he could get designer brands at discount prices. His phone was provided by his consulting firm. The explanation seemed reasonable, but I was starting to feel like something didn't add up. If Tyler was really struggling financially like I was, why did he have such expensive taste and knowledge about luxury brands? My suspicions grew stronger when I noticed Tyler's spending habits outside of our dates. He would mention buying expensive coffee every morning, getting his car detailed regularly, and shopping at high-end grocery stores. These weren't the behaviors of someone who was genuinely worried about money. But every time Tyler planned another expensive date and then forgot his wallet, I found myself paying again. It had become such a predictable pattern that I started bringing extra money on dates just to prepare for the inevitable moment when Tyler would look embarrassed and apologetic about not being able to pay. The breaking point came when Tyler suggested we celebrate his birthday at the most expensive steakhouse in the city. It was the kind of place where entrees started at $70, and Tyler was excited about trying their famous dry-aged steaks and wine pairings. "It's my birthday," he said when I hesitated about the cost. "I've been looking forward to this all year. Please, Jess? It would mean so much to me to celebrate with you." I didn't want to disappoint Tyler on his birthday, so I agreed to go. But when I looked at the menu, I felt physically sick. Tyler ordered the most expensive steak on the menu, added lobster tail, chose premium sides, and selected a bottle of wine that cost more than I made in 2 weeks. I ordered a basic chicken dish and declined wine, trying to calculate in my head how much this meal was going to cost. When Tyler suggested appetizers and dessert, I knew I was looking at a bill that would completely max out my remaining credit. "Tyler," I said carefully, "this is getting really expensive. Are you sure you want to order all of this?" Tyler looked hurt. "It's my birthday, Jess. I just want to celebrate with the person I care about most. Don't you want me to enjoy my special day?" I felt terrible for bringing up money on his birthday, so I didn't say anything else. But when the final check came to $297, I wanted to cry. Tyler went through his usual performance of looking confused and embarrassed. "I can't believe this, but I think I left my wallet in my gym bag in my car. I'm so sorry, babe. Can you cover this? I promise I'll run to the ATM after dinner and pay you back tonight." But this time, something felt different. Tyler's embarrassment seemed forced, almost rehearsed. He didn't seem genuinely surprised or apologetic. He seemed like he had expected this to happen. As I handed over my credit card, completely maxing it out, I started to wonder if Tyler's forgetfulness was really forgetfulness at all. Had he been planning for me to pay this entire time? That night, Tyler never mentioned running to the ATM or paying me back. When I brought it up the next day, he said he had forgotten and promised to take care of it later. But later never came, just like it never had before. I spent the next week thinking about all the money I had spent on Tyler over the past 4 months. It was well over $1,500 at this point, more than I made in an entire month at my regular job. Meanwhile, Tyler owed me money going back to our very first date, and he never seemed concerned about paying any of it back. I started paying closer attention to Tyler's lifestyle and behavior. He lived in a beautiful apartment in an expensive part of town. When I asked about his rent, he said he was house-sitting for a friend who was traveling for work. But the friend had supposedly been traveling for over a year, and Tyler had personal belongings and furniture throughout the apartment like someone who lived there permanently. Tyler drove a late-model BMW that he claimed was borrowed from his cousin. But I noticed that all the car's registration and insurance documents were in Tyler's name, and he knew every feature and function like someone who owned it. Most tellingly, Tyler never seemed to worry about money the way people who are actually struggling with money worry about it. He never checked prices before ordering at restaurants. He never suggested we look for deals or discounts. He never seemed stressed about upcoming bills or expenses. I started to suspect that Tyler wasn't broke at all, but I couldn't figure out why he would lie about having money. What would be the point of pretending to be poor while making me pay for everything? That's when I remembered a conversation I'd had with my roommate about a guy she had dated who did something similar. He had pretended to be financially struggling so that she would always pay for dates, essentially using her as a free meal ticket while he saved his own money. The thought that Tyler might be doing the same thing to me made me feel sick and furious. Had I been working extra shifts and going into debt just so Tyler could enjoy expensive dates without spending his own money? I decided I needed to find out the truth about Tyler's financial situation. I wasn't going to accuse him of anything without proof, but I also wasn't going to keep spending money I didn't have on someone who might be taking advantage of me. I started by doing some basic online research. I looked up Tyler's full name on social media, professional networking sites, and public records databases. What I found was shocking. Tyler's LinkedIn profile listed him as an investment advisor at Henderson Wealth Management, not a struggling freelance consultant like he had told me. When I researched the company, I discovered it was a prestigious family-owned firm that managed investments and trust funds for wealthy clients. Tyler's job wasn't some unstable consulting gig with unpredictable income. He was working at a high-end financial firm, and his listed experience suggested he was making well into six figures. But that was just the beginning of what I discovered. When I dug deeper into public records, I found that Tyler owned his apartment outright. There was no mortgage or rent because he had purchased it with cash 2 years earlier for $400,000. He also owned the BMW I had seen him driving, plus a second luxury car that was registered to the same address. Tyler wasn't borrowing these vehicles from family, he owned multiple expensive cars. Most shocking of all, I found legal documents showing that Tyler was the beneficiary of a substantial trust fund that had been established by his wealthy grandparents. The trust was worth over $2 million, and Tyler had been receiving monthly payments from it since his 25th birthday. Tyler wasn't just financially comfortable, he was rich. He had more money than most people could dream of, and he had been lying to me about it for months while I struggled to pay for dates that were pocket change to him. I felt so many emotions at once that I could barely process them. I was angry, hurt, betrayed, humiliated, and absolutely furious. I had been working myself to exhaustion and going into debt to pay for dates with someone who could have easily afforded to pay for 1,000 dates without even noticing the expense. But more than anything, I felt manipulated and used. Tyler had deliberately created a false persona to trick me into paying for everything. He had watched me stress about money, skip meals, and work extra shifts, all while knowing that he had more wealth than I could even comprehend. Tyler had turned my genuine feelings for him into a way to get free entertainment while preserving his own fortune. It was cruel, manipulative, and completely heartless. As I sat in my tiny apartment, surrounded by bills I couldn't pay and eating another meal of ramen noodles, while Tyler was probably enjoying some expensive dinner that I had unknowingly subsidized, I realized that I couldn't let this go. Tyler needed to face consequences for his lies and manipulation, and I was going to make sure that happened, but I also wanted to be strategic about my approach. Simply confronting Tyler and breaking up with him wouldn't be enough. He would just find another woman to manipulate and exploit. I wanted to expose Tyler in a way that would prevent him from hurting other people and would cost him something that actually mattered to him. Over the next week, I did extensive research into Tyler's background, his family, and his financial situation. What I learned gave me the perfect plan for revenge. One that would expose his lies to everyone who mattered in his life and cost him the very fortune he had been so desperate to protect. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe. Now back to Tyler's background. Tyler's family, the Hendersons, were well known in our city for their philanthropic work and charitable giving. They ran a foundation that provided scholarships and financial assistance to young people from low-income backgrounds. Tyler's parents were respected business leaders who were known for their integrity and commitment to helping others achieve financial independence. The irony was almost too perfect. Tyler's family was dedicated to helping people who struggled financially, while Tyler himself was exploiting and manipulating a woman who was working multiple jobs just to survive. I realized that Tyler's family would be absolutely horrified if they knew how he was treating me. Their reputation and charitable work were built on helping people in financial need, not on exploiting them. But the most important discovery I made was about Tyler's trust fund. The legal documents I found showed that the trust had strict conditions attached to it. Tyler could lose access to his inheritance if he engaged in behavior that brought dishonor to the family name or violated the ethical standards that his grandparents had established. Financial fraud, lying, and manipulation were specifically mentioned as grounds for revoking the trust. Tyler's grandparents had apparently been concerned about their wealth corrupting their descendants, so they had built in safeguards to ensure the money would only go to family members who demonstrated good character. Tyler had been so careful to hide his wealth from me, but he had no idea that his deception could cost him that very wealth if the right people found out about it. That I spent 2 weeks planning my revenge, gathering evidence, and preparing for the moment when I would expose Tyler's lies to everyone who mattered in his life. The opportunity came when Tyler invited me to attend his family's annual charity gala, the same event where they raised money to help financially struggling young people like me. Tyler seemed excited about introducing me to his parents and showing me off to his family's friends and colleagues. He had no idea that I was planning to use his own family's charity event as the stage for revealing his true character. "They're going to love you," Tyler told me as we prepared for the gala. "Your story of working multiple jobs to put yourself through school is exactly the kind of thing they admire. You're such an inspiration." I almost laughed at the irony. Tyler was planning to use my genuine financial struggles to impress his parents at a charity event, while simultaneously being the cause of many of those struggles. The night of the gala, I arrived looking beautiful in an expensive dress that Tyler had suggested I buy for the occasion. Of course, he had forgotten his wallet when we went shopping, so I had put the $300 dress on my already maxed out credit card. Tyler was charming and proud as he introduced me to people as his girlfriend who was working her way through college. He seemed to enjoy the impressed reactions people had to my inspiring story of determination and hard work. But Tyler had no idea that I was carrying a folder full of evidence that would destroy his reputation and cost him everything he had taken for granted. By the end of the evening, everyone in that room would know exactly what kind of person Tyler Henderson really was. The moment came during the speeches, when the event organizers opened the floor for people to share their stories and thank the Henderson family for their charitable work. I had requested permission to speak, telling them I wanted to share my experience as someone who had benefited from their generosity. Tyler was beaming with pride as I walked to the microphone, completely unaware that his life was about to change forever. What did you like about this video?